It's been said that money is the root of all evil, and maybe that's why it's so difficult for us to talk about it, even with our friends and closest family members. Lori Sackler has seen the problems that can crop up when families don't have the talk, the money talk. Sackler is a senior vice president at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, and the difficulties of talking about finances within families led her to write her books, The M Word, the money talk every family needs to have about wealth and their financial future, and the accompanying workbook, The M Word Journal, How to Have the Money Talk.
So I was seeing families struggling with having conversations around money, and I saw it not only in my personal life, but with my clients. And when I started to do some research, I found that there's a 70% failure rate in transferring assets across generation, and the primary reasons break down in communication and trust. These conflicts I was seeing were not only tearing the family finances apart, but the relationships as well.
Sackler says that our reluctance to discuss money matters in the family stems from a number of different sources.
So it's impolite to talk about money. It's built into our history and our social mores. There are what I would call evolutionary instinct issues. Money, for many, is seen as an object of threat and control. The third reason is what I would call gender differences. There are physiologically based differences in men and women's brains. So typically they have differences around communication, setting investment goals and objectives, and also risk tolerance. So that creates conflict. And the fourth main reason I see is family history and patterns that have developed over time. So if you have a family for whom money conversations have been part of the culture, it would be significantly more easier for you to pass that down to your children.
Fortunately, Sackler says, the younger generation has an easier time talking about money than their parents or grandparents do. But with the older folks keeping things to themselves, it's still difficult to have the family talk about finance. That's why she set out to make it easier to broach the subject and get all of the information necessary to start the discussion.
That is what I call the five-step process. So the first one is to define the transitions that you're facing. And I identify 5 in the M Word, the money talk. And the M Word Journal goes one step further and helps people not only define the transition, but start to collect the information that they're going to need to have the conversations. Step 2 is preparing the inner landscape and overcoming those roadblocks. So every family has reasons why they're having a tough time having the talks. And so I think it's incumbent upon you as an individual who thinks this is an important issue to talk about is to dig deep and figure out what are the reasons and what are the roadblocks in your family.
Next is prepare the outer landscape. Sackler says you do this by using professional techniques to conduct the discussion. The who, what, where, when, why, and how. She says you need to answer those questions before you begin the conversation.
The fourth is what I call ask for help. Because of the sensitive nature of money, it's really hard for people to talk about it on their own. And it's easier if they have professional help, and I do explore some of the different options. And then the fifth is what I call repeat as necessary. So anyone who's tried to do these sensitive conversations with family members will find that you typically don't succeed the first round. You want to navigate the waters, you want to get some help, and then you want to have a process that you can repeat.
Sackler says there are points in life where our financial circumstances change, sometimes drastically. One of these is marriage or other type of domestic partnership. She says that couples come from different backgrounds, and that means they can often have different ideas when it comes to making, spending, and saving money. Often one member in the couple is a saver and one is a spender, and this difference has to be brought up and discussed. In male-female relationships, she says that men often want to save for retirement, while women are thinking more of the family and children's needs. Getting everything out at the beginning can prevent problems in the future.
Identify what are the goals first, and then you reconcile by disclosing information. So you have to disclose the bank accounts. You have to disclose the spending habits. And you have to reconcile those differences because in any relationship, you're going to have them. And because there are some gender differences at play, there's conflict that's naturally going to arise. But if you stay focused on the money talk and follow the 5 steps, I think it's going to help you get through it.
The money talk isn't confined to spouses or family. Sackler says that women especially need to have the money talk with, of all people, their bosses.
I liken the process here as something that can be used for every life transition, including asking for a raise or seeking a new promotion. I mean, you literally have to think through that conversation and advocate on your behalf. I recently did some interviews of senior executive women around the country, and they talk about the importance of having a mentor and a sponsor to help you in your work situation. And they can also help prepare you for the money talk.
In addition to marriage and employment, how money will be saved for retirement and elder care are also important issues that should be discussed with family members as they age.
We see baby boomers living longer and working longer, as well as their parents living longer. So we feel like that's a conversation that needs to be discussed and how it impacts other family members. Another area is long-term care, caring for an aging parent, which is very impactful to families. Typically not just a financial place, but also caring. How do you care for them? How do you balance the physical and the financial pieces to the puzzle?
Planning for retirement can be tricky. Who knows how long they will live, what costs they'll incur for health care, housing, and activities. Sackler says there are some steps you can take to make a good estimate, such as deciding how you want to live, looking at your resources, calculating how much you need to live that lifestyle, and taking steps to get there. Maybe you need to work longer or work part-time when you retire. But again, it involves talking it over with your family and perhaps a professional to help you get things in order.
You're going to have conversations with your partners, with your children. I mean, because I see families being impacted when one of the family members retires. Now, sometimes it's good. They decide to enjoy life and maybe there's extra money and they can gift a little bit. But I'd say the vast majority of Americans tighten their belts and they need to really think about how they're going to achieve that long life expectancy and live in the way that they're comfortable.
Passing on assets after death can be a touchy subject to bring up. Some people want to keep their wills secret for fear that it might affect how a family member treats them as they get older. Others just don't want to face their own mortality. Sackler says that all of the heirs should be brought into the discussion and understand why decisions were made and what their roles and responsibilities will be when the family member dies.
I quote Warren Buffett in my book because I saw an interview with him, and he describes how he never even signs his will until he talks to his kids first. Now, he obviously is in a different financial position than the rest of the world, but he's a wise person. He has good, sound advice. You really want to engage them at some point and make sure they understand what's going on.
Sackler says that not having the talk beforehand can lead to conflict and hard feelings when it's too late to do anything about it.
What happens is the will is final. Once that person's gone, what is in that will is very final. And research shows, and what I've experienced, is if you don't have these sensitive conversations, for example, if there's discrepancies in the will, one person gets more than the other, which I typically don't recommend you do unless you have the money talk. It's very important that you discuss this up front, and you don't have to necessarily give out all the details, and it depends on the kids and their readiness and their age and their ability to manage it. But for those who are carrying on key responsibilities, they really have to know. And if there's something in there that's very sensitive, it needs to be resolved if you want to protect the family from having conflict ongoing after you're gone.
As we said at the beginning, it's often a good idea to seek professional help when the big decisions in life come your way. But how do you find a good financial planner? Sackler says you do it the same way you find a good doctor.
You're going to ask around, and what I do is get multiple opinions and interview these people and find out exactly who's the best person. And I think you have to do that kind of due diligence. So you're going to ask questions like, is there a good connection? Are they a caring person? Is the right chemistry there? Do they have the right character? And then you have practical things you want to ask is, what's the profile of the client that they work with? Are they going to be able to satisfy my needs? Do they have the expertise I'm looking for? And, of course, then you want to ask, what fees do they charge? How do they get paid? There's a lot of ways to get paid, and you want to obviously have some real transparency on that. And ultimately, the decision will be, is it a good choice for you or not? There are people out there who can do it themselves and can go through a direct program. I find, and obviously I have some bias here because I'm in the advice and counsel business, but I find that people make big mistakes when they think they can do this all on their own because it's complicated.
To get started on organizing your money issues and gathering the data you need to have the money talk with family and perhaps a professional financial planner, you can pick up Lori Sackler's book, books, The M Word and The M Word Journal, available in stores and online. She also invites listeners to her website, themword.com. For more information about all of our guests, log on to our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find archives of past programs there and on iTunes and Stitcher. Our show is written and produced by Pat Reuter. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Reed Pence. I'm Marty Peterson.
No pet should ever go hungry. This May, during National Pet Month, Purina is teaming up with former pro quarterback Brady Quinn and his wife, Olympic gymnast Alicia Sacramone Quinn, to put an end to pet hunger with the Roll Over Hunger campaign. Simply upload a video or photo of you and your pet attempting to roll over to rolloverhunger.com and then share your video or photo on social media using hashtag rolloverhunger. Through May 31st, for every valid video or photo uploaded to the website, Purina will donate $2 to the Pet Finder Foundation, up to $50,000, to help feed shelter pets in need. The Pet Finder Foundation helps shelters support pets until they find forever homes. To learn more about Roll Over Hunger and watch the National Pet Month PSA featuring the Quinns and their dogs Bella and Boss, visit rolloverhunger.com. You can also play an instant win game there for a chance to win Purina coupons. Get involved and challenge your friends. Join the Roll Over Hunger Challenge today and make a difference for our four-legged friends during National Pet Month.
Can you imagine not being able to see? Nearly 250 million people worldwide are blind or visually impaired. 80% of visual impairment can be prevented or cured, but 90% of those affected live in countries with little access to quality eye care. The solution is Orbis, a global nonprofit organization which has trained thousands of doctors and treats hundreds of thousands of patients in 78 countries aboard their Flying Eye Hospital, the world's only ophthalmic teaching hospital on board a DC-10 aircraft. This summer, Orbis will launch their brand new Flying Eye Hospital, an MD-10 state-of-the-art, fully accredited eye hospital with enhanced teaching technologies. Orbis invites you to celebrate this milestone in aviation and medicine. For just a $25 donation to Orbis, you can get a behind-the-scenes tour of the Flying Eye Hospital and experience a piece of aviation history this summer in Los Angeles, Memphis, New York, Washington, D.C., or Dallas. Visit orbis.org/launch to make your donation, register for tours, and to learn more. That's orbis.org/launch.
Dove Chocolate, produced by Mars Chocolate North America, is passionate about cocoa from bean to bar. That means the highest standards of quality when crafting Dove Chocolate, while also improving the livelihoods of cocoa farmers and their families. Now Dove Chocolate is partnering with CARE to help empower women in the cocoa communities of Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa, where Dove Chocolate is sourced. The partnership will set up village savings and loan associations, giving women a safe place to save money and access small loans, which will in turn improve yields and incomes. Research shows that when women have greater income, more is invested in family and community, extending benefits to the next generation of cocoa farmers and their families. The new CARE partnership is yet another effort by Mars Chocolate to improve the cocoa production process, with the goal to certify 100% of its cocoa as sustainably produced by 2020. It's all of this and more that makes Dove Chocolate a pleasure with purpose. Visit us at dovechocolatejourney.com to learn more.